What's going on, everyone? Ruben here, therelationshipnonguru.com, and today is Book Review Wednesdays. Now, the book that I'm going to be reviewing that I read over the last week is Creativity by Osho. Osho, he had his book Love, Freedom, and Aloneness is called, and that book just blew my mind. I want to do a book review on that. I want to actually reread it because it's that good. I've created videos on it, on relationship topics, 2 videos to be exact. You can check that out on my channel, on the other playlist. But today, let's jump right into this. I want to start right away. I wrote this, made this a little, for you guys to see. So you guys can kind of take a look at that. Osho Creativity started off with, I'm saying it's a great book, especially if you're in entrepreneurship. It kind of gives you that to see creativity in a different way, not what you're probably used to with your former education. It's kind of like forget everything you learned and look at it this way. But Osho can be very out there, so you kind of have to be very open when you listen. And there's a lot of paradoxes in what he says, but the way he speaks, and I'm pretty sure he didn't actually write the book. Someone probably sat there listening to him and was like writing it. But the way he speaks, and it's like poetry in motion. It's beautiful, and the stories he says are amazing. But I want to jump into it by first saying, he starts the book off by saying, in order to become an enriched human being, you need the 3 C's, which is consciousness, compassion, and creativity. Now, do you have compassion? Are you nice to others? Do you treat your family and friends with respect? And do you treat your family and friends with respect? Are you, Are you conscious? Are you self-aware of yourself? Do you notice things, when you're feeling a certain emotion? Do you have a high EQ? These things are things that if you want to better yourself and better your life, you should definitely do. And this book will show you ways to look into yourself. But I'm just going to drop right into it and just say a few things on how great this book is. I mean, you can just take what I say and just be like, that's it. I'm going to kind of give you the basics of the whole book. You won't have to read. If you want to read it, it's about 190 pages. It's a quick read, actually. A lot of the pages have these like blocks that kind of just like make you go through it even faster. And the blocks are just like something he already said in the paragraph, but they're like focusing on that. So I'm just going to go. First part of the book is about the obstacles in our lives. First one is self-consciousness. And what he says here is that you have to drop the ego. Pretty sure you've heard it before. Dropping the ego, I've probably said it in my videos before. It's like a really important thing. Drop the ego. That way you can defeat all failure and frustration. Because when you fail, you get angry because your ego gets shot. Your ego gets hit hard and you kind of don't really pick yourself up from it. So I'm just going to go to one of the pages. I wrote pages on there because I want to just read little excerpts from the book. And it's quick. So this one, he says, once you have dropped the ego, you have dropped all defeat, all failure, all frustration. Carry the ego and you are doomed to failure. Carry the ego and you will remain weak. Drop the ego and infinite strength starts flowing through you. By dropping the ego, you become a river. You start flowing. You start melting. You start streaming. You become alive. That's basically the first part, which is self-consciousness. Then we go into perfectionism. And perfectionism, actually, he says it's a real thing. It can actually exist. How? By becoming, once again, you drop the ego. Once you drop the ego and it's not there, only then will your true creativity come out. And that perfection you have been looking for will show up when you least expect it. I'm pretty sure you've seen that before, where you're like so focused on maybe a project, you're drawing something, and once you remove that, you come back to it with a different state of mind, you kind of figure it out. My example for me would be when I used to play video games and I'm just like getting frustrated because of a puzzle, and I'm like, man, if I don't pass this puzzle and get this specific achievement, it won't look cool on my record, and it shows my achievements. So I used to get all crazy because I'm trying to figure it out, I can't. So I would just like leave, turn off the game, do something else, and a few hours later come back to it where I'm not really thinking about it and my mind is just kind of like whatever, and I figure it out. Like as soon as I start, I just figure it out because my mind is clean, is empty, and I feel like that can work with anything. Next, we're going to go into intellect, which I like because when we think of intellectual people, we think of people that are smarts here, but we don't think about what's here. And he says that's where the true intellectual people come in. And what I'm going to go to that page, page 81, and read that off. People are afraid of the unknown. People feel insecure with the unknown. They don't want to go beyond the familiar. Hence, they have created a false plastic substitute for intelligence. They call it intellect. Intellect is only a mental game. It cannot be creative. So, and he talks about like Picasso, Van Gogh, Mozart. Intelligence create these. And intelligence is on a total different dimension. It has nothing to do with the head. It has something to do with the heart. Intellect is in the head. Intelligence is a state of heart wakefulness. When your heart is awake, when your heart is dancing in deep gratitude, when your heart is in tune with existence, in harmony with existence, out of that harmony is creativity. Now I'm going to go towards belief. So he talks about how like belief is not belief, which can sound kind of confusing until you read this. Belief is not just belief. It opens doors, it closes doors. If you have a wrong belief, then that will hang around you as a closed door. If you believe that you are uncreative, you will become uncreative because that belief will obstruct, continuously negate all possibilities of flowing. So your whole attitude should be to have belief in yourself and have belief in what you're doing. Once you have that unstaggering and unwavering belief, possibilities are endless. And I love what he says there about that. There's also another little quote I wanted to actually highlight this. Whatsoever you do, if you do it joyfully, if you do it lovingly, if your act of doing it is not purely economic, then it is creative. So instead of looking for the money in what you do it because of the joy, of the love you do it. The money will follow. So then we go into the last part, which is the fame game. And there's a few things he actually talks about in this fame game. And I'm just gonna just what I just said. Work should be a joy and love for its own sake, instead of you looking for only economic gain. And part I was going to read is right here. Being respected by idiots, you have to behave accordingly to their manners, their expectations. To be respected by the sick humanity, you have to be sicker than they are. Then they will respect you. But what will you gain? You will lose your soul and you will gain nothing. It's a great, great way. And then the 4 keys, he talked about the 4 keys. These are like to get your creativity alive again. And focus. Okay. And that's becoming a child again. And this is not the first time I've seen this. Literally every book I read is when it comes to success, or it's like you have to tap into that inner child. Because as he says in this book, I don't even have to read a quote technically. He says that we are born creative already. Think about how kids are. They figure things out. You give them tools and they'll do stuff with that tools that you wouldn't even think to do, because we are more intellect. We have that logical brain. They haven't built that yet. He talks about that in this book when he talks about the left brain and the right brain. I kind of forgot about the hemispheres and which one has the logic. I think it's the left that is all about the logic, and then the right is like the imaginative, the creative, something like that. I may be wrong. Google it, help me out here. But in that, he talks about becoming a kid again. Maybe I should say what he says about it. When a person responds in a new way, he should be valued. There should be no right answer. There is none. There is only a stupid answer and an intelligent answer. The very categorization of right and wrong is wrong. There is no right answer, and there is no wrong answer. Either the answer is stupid, repetitive, or the answer is creative, responsive, intelligent. Even if the repetitive answer seems to be right, it should not be valued much, because it is repetitive. And even though the intelligent answer may not be perfectly right, may not fit with the old ideas, it has to be praised because it is new. It shows intelligence. Love it. Then, of course, the second one is be ready to learn. Always constantly be a learner, which is kind of straightforward. He has a lot of good stuff there, of course. What is it? Page 121. I think he says, live in the moment, in the context of the moment, and your response will be total. And that totality has beauty, and that totality is creativity. Then whatsoever you do will have a beauty of its own. But, I mean, this was pretty basic, so I'm just going to go to the next one. Find nirvana in the ordinary. And that's really good. I don't know why that's blinking. Find nirvana. Remember, creativity has nothing to do with any particular work. So basically, anything you do, you can find nirvana in it. He even talks about like mopping the floor. Think of it as you painting a picture, which is pretty cool. I've never thought of it that way. Really, really good. And then the last one is to be a dreamer. And I just want to read an excerpt from this, because most people would think being a dreamer is like, oh, then you're not taking action towards those dreams. That means they're not going to manifest itself, and whatever the case is. But he doesn't mean it in that case. He just means that be a dreamer, because that's how creativity forms itself. When you dream at night, when you think about all the things you're going to do when you achieve your dreams. One thing he says here is, when you are thinking, you are separate from others because you are thinking some thoughts and the other person is thinking different thoughts. But if you are both silent, then all the walls between you disappear. Two silences cannot remain two. They become one. All great values of life, love, silence, blissfulness, ecstasy, godliness, make you aware of immense oneness. There is nobody else other than you. We are all different expressions of one reality. Different songs of one singer. Different dances of one dancer. Different paintings, but the painting is one. The painter is one. And then he goes into these 4 questions I guess people have asked him in the past. And they're memory, imagination, postpartum, depression, creativity, and crossbreeding. And at the end is the art of money. When it comes to memory and imagination, I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm just going to go through it. The story of Shiraz is the apparently a story about the man who built the Taj Mahal. And in it, the king wanted him to make a sculpture of a beautiful woman. He says, okay, bring me 25 beautiful women, and I would behind like a sheet, so he can't see it. He only could touch their hand, and then he will have to imagine how to sculpt them to make them look exactly. He said he was confident that he would make them look exactly. Apparently the 25 women didn't work. The king's daughter decided to go behind one as a joke. He touches her hand and he realizes this is the one. So he goes into his room for 3 months straight, where he's just working nonstop, and he creates a sculpture of the king's daughter. And they made a bet that if he can create it and it looks exactly as that sculpture is, because he was a very poor man, this sculptor, Shiraz, that was his name, Shiraz, like the wine. And he created the daughter, and the bet was that whatever woman, if he created exactly as the woman, just by touching her hand, mind you, he would be able to marry that woman. As a poor man, he's married into rich family, and the king didn't want that. and something happened. I forget. The story's kind of long. But she ends up dying. So he gets like really depressed, and like the king tricks him into like creating the Taj Mahal, something like that. Then you have postpartum depression, which is kind of like it's what happens when creativity you have too much. So it's like he says it here: the deeper your creation, the greater will be your emptiness afterward. The greater the storm, the greater will be the silence that comes in its wake. Enjoy it. The storm is good. Enjoy it. And the silence that follows, it is also good. And I've heard of that before with a lot of the mentors I listen to, about them getting very depressed after they have done everything and they have all the money. Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, when he reached a point where he didn't have to do anything and he like built a system to take care of everything and just money was coming in, he kind of fell into a little depression. So he talks about that and how that's very possible, but just to enjoy that time. It's like after the storm. So then after that, we have the creativity and crossbreeding. So what I want to say in that part is that it was like about combining two. It's like combining two of your skills and then making it into one. This creates like an unknown creativity. Yeah, all great creativity happens through people who move from one discipline to another. It is like crossbreeding, and children that come out of crossbreeding are far healthier and far more beautiful. And kind of uses the example of like two different races breeding and making new children. You know, like an Asian woman, African man. You know, they make beautiful children. And the last one is the art of money. And he says money isn't bad. It gives you the freedom to do what you want when you want and all. You know, that I just don't want to make this video too long. 17 minutes. But book is great. I would say I give it like a 8 out of 10. If you really want to read it, you should check it out. And yeah, that's all for this week. Stay tuned till next week. Enjoy, and as always, stay awesome.